All right, let's jump right into this explainer and decode what everyone calls the true language of business, accounting. We hear that phrase thrown around boardrooms constantly, right? But what does it actually mean? Think about it. Any language is just a way to communicate. In accounting, it exists to communicate the real-world, hard facts of business operations. Except instead of using verbs and nouns, it uses concepts and numbers.
Now, you might be wondering, how do we make sense of all that? I mean, a modern business is an absolute whirlwind of activity. Countless transactions, massive inventories, moving resources. It's pure chaos. The secret lies in translating that daily chaos into a rock-solid, structured set of rules. So don't just think of accounting as boring record-keeping. Think of it as a framework. It's a way to standardize the madness so that anyone, anywhere, can pick up a financial statement and know exactly what's going on. Here's what we're looking at today. We're going to set the boundaries, figure out the rules of measurement, look at the twofold effect, tackle timing and recognition, and finally learn how to play it safe.
All right, Section 1, setting the boundaries. Who plays and for how long? Because before we can even think about keeping score, we absolutely have to establish the playing field.
Let's start with the business entity concept. This is where accounting draws its very first major boundary. It treats the business and its owners as two completely separate things. And this is actually super fascinating because in the eyes of the law, especially if you're running a sole proprietorship, you and your business might be viewed as the exact same thing. But the accountant? No way. The accountant absolutely has to separate you two. All the accounting is done strictly from the viewpoint of the business itself, never the owner's personal perspective.
To put that in perspective, think about the owner's wallet versus the company's cash register. If an owner takes cash out of the business to, say, buy some personal groceries, the business records a reduction in its cash. On the flip side, if the owner decides to inject their own personal cash into the business doesn't just magically get richer, it suddenly owes a liability to that owner. Basically, the owner becomes a creditor to their very own company.
Okay, so once we know who is playing, we have to set up the timeline, enter the going concern concept. The crucial takeaway here is that we assume this game has no final buzzer. We just assume the business will continue operating perpetually into the foreseeable future. And this is huge. Why? Because it allows us to treat unutilized resources as costs meant to generate future value, rather than forcing us to value every single asset at some immediate fire sale liquidation price.
But, of course, there's a catch. Stakeholders, investors, the government, they can't wait forever to see if the business is actually winning. So we have to slice that indefinite, never-ending timeline into manageable chunks. That's the accounting period concept. Whether it's a calendar year, a financial year, or a natural business year that wraps up during a slow season, this concept forces the business to hit pause, tally the score, and put out regular financial updates. Moving on to Section 2, Rules of Measurement, our scoring system. Now that we know who's playing and for how long, how do we actually keep score? Well, we keep score using the money measurement concept. This means we only record factual transactions that can be expressed in actual monetary terms. But here's the wild part. It famously ignores incredibly important things just because they don't have a price tag. Employee loyalty? A manager sacrificing their health for the job? Toxic conflicts between departments? Nope, not recorded. Plus, it assumes the value of money stays perfectly constant, which literally ignores inflation. So yeah, it's imperfect, but it's a highly practical common denominator. And to keep that score grounded in objective reality, we rely on the cost concept. This rule dictates that we record assets at their historical purchase price. For instance, if a company bought a plot of land for 600,000 rupees way back in the year 2000, it stays recorded at that original book value in the accounts, even if its current market value today is a whopping 6 million. It stops companies from artificially inflating their worth based on wild market guesses, which keeps the game fair for everyone watching.
That brings us to Section 3, the twofold effect. This is the foundational rule. Let's look at how this builds into the absolute most critical mechanic of our game. We're talking about the dual aspect concept, which is beautifully summed up in one fundamental equation. Assets always equal liabilities plus capital. The absolutely crucial point in this scoring system is that every single action has an equal and opposite reaction. Literally, every transaction has a twofold effect. If something goes up on one side of this equation, something else has to go down on that same side or go up on the other side, just to keep those scales perfectly balanced. To ground this in everyday reality, just think about buying a pair of jeans at the mall. You do step 1. You hand over 1,000 rupees in cash. Boom, you just lost an asset. But simultaneously, in step 2, you gain a brand new asset, the jeans.
Your total wealth hasn't actually changed, it just shifted forms. Every giver is a receiver, keeping the whole business game perfectly balanced in the ledgers.
All right, on to Section 4, Timing and Recognition, or beating the clock. In business, money doesn't always change hands the exact second a deal is struck. So when does a point actually go up on the board?
That's where the accrual concept comes in. It separates the legal right to receive cash from the physical movement of the cash itself. Imagine a business sells some goods on day 1. The right to receive payment is created right then and there. Even if the accounting period closes on day 30 and the actual cash doesn't show up until day 45, the accrual concept says we recognize that revenue on day 1. We're recording the reality of the business activity, not just the physical movement of the cash.
And working hand in hand with that accrual timeline is the incredibly clever matching concept. Honestly, this is the heartbeat of calculating true profit. It ensures we pair the revenues earned during a specific year directly with the exact costs incurred to generate them. We are matching our accomplishments, the revenues, against our efforts, the costs. And because of accrual, we do this whether the cash actually changed hands during that year or not.
Finally, Section 5, Playing it safe. These are the fair play guidelines. As we reach our last act in decoding this language, we really need to understand the philosophy of the accountant. Think of them as a very wise, very cautious referee. There is a golden rule in accounting. Anticipate no profit, provide for all possible losses. This is the Conservatism Concept, sometimes called prudence, and it strictly warns us never to overstate our success. If there's a potential loss on the horizon, like a pending lawsuit, the accountant makes a provision for it immediately. But a potential, unrealized gain? We hold off until it's a sure thing. It's exactly why we value unsold inventory at its cost price or its market price, whichever is lower.
We round out our fair play rules with 2 super practical concepts: consistency and materiality. Consistency just means you can't go changing your accounting methods year after year just to make your profits look better. You pick a strategy and you stick to it, so your reports can actually be compared over time. And materiality? That's the rule that stops accountants from completely losing their minds. It means we don't sweat the incredibly small stuff. If an event or a tiny discrepancy is really small potatoes, we don't need to bog it down with complex theoretical treatments. So we've just decoded the foundational concepts, the true rules of the game that build financial statements. You now know exactly how chaos gets translated into order using entities, dual aspects, and super precise timing. But considering that this specific language purposefully ignores the vital human elements of a team and totally turns a blind eye to inflation and the changing value of our money over time, I want to leave you with one final thought. While accounting is absolutely the language of business, is it truly capturing the whole story?